Andy, my dude, have you heard of the magical website builder known as Squarespace?
Ugh, not another Squarespace ad. I feel like every podcast is sponsored by them.
Hey, don't knock it till you try it. Yes, okay, it is overhyped, but actually it lives up to the hype. Squarespace is like a website fairy godmother. With a click of a button, your site transforms into a beautiful masterpiece.
A website fairy godmother? That sounds interesting. What makes it so magical?
Well, for starters, those slick templates make anyone look like a professional web designer. Pick one, customize the colors and fonts to match your brand, and voila. Plus, the drag and drop fluid engine is so easy, your grandma could build a site on Squarespace.
Well, she did knit me a lovely scarf last Christmas. Maybe website design is next.
Exactly. And when you're ready to sell your Nana's handmade scarves online, Squarespace has built-in e-commerce. Add a store with one click. Get flexible payment options. Then watch those sales roll in. And when she wants to teach others her steezy scarf skills, Squarespace's new courses feature is just the ticket. Nana can set up her curriculum and enrollments and payments in a snap and become the next e-knitting influencer.
Oh, wow, you really sold me with the grandma angle. Sign me up for that free trial.
Just go to thenextreel.com/Squarespace and transform your site into a beautiful Squarespace masterpiece.
Well, thanks, Pete. Even though it's overhyped, Squarespace actually sounds perfect for Nana's site's needs. Appreciate the warning on the ads, though. I'll brace myself next time I listen to a podcast.
Anytime. Let me know if you need any help getting that site up and running. Andy, can you believe we've almost hit 700 episodes of The Next Reel?
I know, it's crazy. And with all the other episodes in our family of podcasts, we are well over 1,200 episodes of movie conversation. It's really pretty amazing that we've gotten to have these in-depth movie chats every week for over a decade now.
And we couldn't have done it without our loyal community of film fans. Their support over the years has meant so much.
For sure. That reminds me, we should give the merch store a shout out. Buying shirts from thenextreel.com/merch is a great way listeners can continue to support the show. Plus, they get to sport our great designs.
Absolutely. I think sometimes folks forget we have a variety of shirts, mugs, phone cases, and more available. In fact, a great place to start is with a shirt sporting the Next Reel's logo.
We also have that classic Fast Times Spicoli Surf School tee, or the weirdly popular Rusty's European Tour shirt.
The one from National Lampoon's European Vacation. Why is that so popular?
Search me, but we have sold a ridiculous number of those. I guess there are a lot of Rustys taking trips to Europe?
We're always adding new designs based on movies we've covered, like our brand new design for a streetcar named Desire, featuring a streetcar named Desire. So if you want to rep your love of TNR and films, head to thenextreel.com/merch.
Every purchase helps us continue to have these weekly in-depth conversations. So visit thenextreel.com/merch today.
And as always, thanks for listening and being a part of the Next Reel community. We've got lots more great movie chats coming your way. I'm Pete Wright.
And I'm Andy Nelson.
Welcome to The Next Reel. When the movie ends,
our conversation begins.
In just a matter of seconds, you're going to hear a classic episode of this show from back in the day when we called ourselves Movies We Like.
It took us a while to settle into the show's format, so you'll notice some differences as you listen to these episodes. For instance, it takes us a bit of time to actually get into the conversation about the movie. Things like that.
But we're still proud of the conversations about the movies themselves, and we think they're worth keeping in the library.
So enjoy these episodes from our back catalog. And you can become part of our Discord community, learn more about the show, and find out how you can become a supporting member at thenextreel.com.
So thank you, everybody, for downloading and listening to The Next Reel. We appreciate your time and attention, and we hope you enjoy the show. You don't even really care.
You're not really listening to me. You don't even really care. Boom.
A parrot can do that.
What was that?
Exactly. How are you?
I am,
So far, I really am on the edge of my seat.
No, I'm good. I am do you ever think back to like shows that you watched when you were young, shows that, seemed to really take a big place in your childhood? And then you go and you look it up on like IMDb or something, and you find out, oh, that only actually ran for 8 episodes or one season. It's like, oh man, that informed my childhood in so many ways, but it only played for those few episodes.
Yeah, like what? Give me what is the one that has you fixated right now?
Well, the one that has me fixated right now is because it's in the entertainment news this week, which
is
I was very excited when I saw this, and I'm not quite sure if I should be or not, but it's about the TV show Manimal.
Oh, why would it possibly be in the entertainment press this week?
Do you remember the show?
Oh, yeah.
1983.
Right.
It was about a man who, I guess he was raised in Africa, but he also had, quote, master of the secrets that divide man from animal. And he could actually turn into like a bird it always was a bird or like a black panther. So
and it always made me think of Lady Hawk.
Ah, yeah.
Except for it wasn't the same period, but
right, a little different. I was always very excited about this show for some reason, and it's in the news this week because lo and behold, Will Ferrell and Adam McKay are actually going to make a Manimal movie. Yes, they say. McKay says, I think it's right down our alley. It's what we do.
It's down their alley.
Yeah, it's tongue-in-cheek and has an action component, but overall it's a comedy. Like The Catcher in the Rye or The Sound and the Fury, Manimal has always been one of those elusive projects every producer dreams of taking to the silver screen. I know the movie will be funny and entertaining, but will it be the first film to win a Pulitzer? We'll just have to see.
First film to win a Pulitzer. Oh, dear.
Yep.
No, I don't. Manimal was not one of those that really I was into in that period. I mean, I remember it, but I didn't like tune in every week.
Well, yeah, and I don't know if I ever tuned into anything every week, but I tuned into things.
Airwolf,
I guess.
Right?
Well,
Airwolf, please.
I never watched Airwolf.
Jan Michael Vincent, Ernest Borgnine.
This is why that Jan Michael Vincent joke didn't work a few weeks ago.
I think that was like 2 years ago. That joke.
Oy vey.
What about V? Didn't you ever watch V? That was 1984.
I wasn't allowed to watch V.
Oh. So you're calling my parents losers.
No,
I see what you did
calling
there.
My parents losers. Mom, Dad, I love you. But
somebody is a loser in this scenario.
But man. Really, it was aliens from space. Come on.
They ate the mouse or the rat. Her mouth distended, and she ate the rat. Turns out they're all lizards. Spoiler. Oh wait, I got that backwards. Always say spoiler first.
Oh yes, right.
Like ripcord. Can I tell you? I have an admission of horrible guilt.
Oh,
it's a whole series of admissions this week.
Wow.
Yeah.
That sounds like college.
Well, for some of us. Unfortunately, you would know. Here's the thing. First of all, Netflix late at night, you make bad choices. And mine was Sharknado.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Bad choice, though. Huh?
I did that. Have you seen it? The whole thing?
I haven't, but I want to.
You should. I mean, you should. You owe it to yourself as a
think
cultural.
Everybody.
Yeah,
I'm going to do Sharknado and Wolf Cop back to back.
Yeah. This one was wow. So you turn things on and it shows. I don't know why. I don't know what I don't remember watching anything that would make the Netflix algorithm think that Sharknado is a related title that I need to be recommended. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what it is that made that happen, that confluence, that sort of planetary alignment, but it showed up, and I thought, I'm going to give it a shot. And, it was so bad. It was so bad all the way through that it's one of those that I don't know what chord it struck in our cultural gestalt that made people think it's cool to watch this nonsense, but it's really bad. Tara Reid is really, I mean, Tara Reid, Ian Ziering, they showed up. Others showed up as well. John Hurd was in this movie. Yeah, it was terrible. So then okay, so I'm going to move on from that one. But I just want it to be let the record show. I've seen it, I've admitted it, and I hope I'm shooting for an acquittal. My son, I realized my son had never seen any of the Transformers movies, and with all the Transformers talk, he was pretty excited to see it.
Oh.
I did not take him to it.
Okay.
But I did. We did. We got them, the first three, and we started watching our way through them. And this is why I feel redeemed. First of all, they're popcorn movies. There's a lot of really exciting stuff going on in there. And I was a big Transformers kid, so
yeah, absolutely.
I was totally me right there. And so it's it's kind of exciting. It's exciting to see what happens on the big screen and what Michael Bay blows up. Then I watch the behind the scenes stuff, right? And that is more interesting than the movies themselves, and it makes the movies better to watch what he does. And what is most surprising there is he's one of those directors who, surprisingly, does not use a lot of CG for particularly the big set pieces and pyrotechnics.
Yeah.
There is a lot of practical stuff going on. I mean, to be fair, there's a lot of CG. Many of the main characters are CG.
Giant robots, right.
And when they blow up, major cities like Chicago, of course, there's some stuff. But, anytime they go in the desert and, he blows things up better than I think any other person working in film, period. I mean, he blows things up. And one of the most interesting bits of commentary from the director, the effects director, I can't remember his name, on the second movie, he said, we have never seen in the history of cinema a director put actors in greater danger due to explosions on set.
Wow.
He puts these people in explosions and just says, okay, run, and hope you don't get swallowed by the flame. And so I found that, I actually found it really compelling. And so it made it more interesting to watch the first three movies. And then I did it. I went to see number 4.
Oh, man.
And I thought I was going to be the only one in the theater until this other schlep, just like me, came in and sat 2 rows directly in front of me. We didn't look at each other. We didn't acknowledge the shame. But we did see the movie together.
Wow.
Yeah.
You did it.
We did it.
And you admitted it.
I did. I have to admit it.
I'll see it eventually. I'll see it eventually, but it'll be a renter for me.
Yeah, it probably should be. I did not see it in 3D or IMAX or anything like that, but I got to tell you, he blows some stuff up, seriously. And you know what? He makes the Transformers really kind of like moody teenagers.
Oh, goody!
They're not good. They're not good guys. They end up being just really mad all the time.
He's been doing that forever, because I remember Sean Connery getting really, really angry at him when he made The Rock, because there was that shot when he and Nicolas Cage had to jump into the water, and as the giant ball of flame shot over their heads, and Sean Connery just was so mad that he made him do that, and because he did not want that fire to be over his head. But I don't know, somehow Bay won out and did it, and Sean was not. He was none too thrilled about it.
Well, they were. This one in 2. They built this little village in the desert, right? And they wired it with their MOABs, right? The mother of all bombs. He had like 40 of them, and the flames shot over 300 feet in the air, just row after row after row of these explosions coming toward the camera. And they had all the helicopters flying around, and they had all the cameras, and they started the actors from the bombs themselves. And so there's Shia and. They're all standing, touching these bombs. That was their starting line. It was to okay, you stand there, hold, like, this is your starting line. If you're touching the bomb, you're in the right place.
Oh, jeez.
Now run. It was something. It was really something. So I have perhaps a renewed appreciation for, things Bay right now. I like the way he blows stuff up.
Well, interesting.
That's what I'm saying.
Well, we can talk more about effects and things blowing up in our show tonight.
Is that a hint? All right, Andy, fine. Let's tell the people where we're from.
Where are we from?
Welcome to the next reel, everybody. I'm Pete Wright. That there is Andy Nelson. Hello, Andy.
Hi!
And we are the next reel. We spoil movies. Did I do that right?
Spoils me.
I feel like I totally messed that up. There was a huge transition I missed. I don't know. Anyway,
no.
Hey,
good.
You know what? You should learn more about the show. You go to thenextreel.com. If you head there, then you can read the blog stylings of the once and future king, Steve Sarmento. You can catch up with all of our old shows and our monthly special edition film board episodes. Don't miss. Last week, you can check, or 2 weeks ago, we did Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. But coming up, Guardians of the Galaxy. Very excited to see that one.
Oh, yeah.
And there you have it. And now, time for the weekly update. Andy, how'd you do this week on the Instagram Guess the Movie Challenge Pony Prize, Andy versus the people?
Not very good. Yeah, the movie was Bridesmaids, and I had forgotten. I guess I shouldn't have forgotten. Maybe I just wasn't thinking about it when I picked it, but when you pick a comedy like that, it is face after face after face. There are just so many faces all through the movie because it's a comedy. It's mostly just people talking, and that's kind of how a lot of those movies are made. So I did find some pictures to post, and second picture that I put up though, Cameron Ryan, she nailed it. She knew what it was. She had quotes ready. I tell you, she clearly is a fan of this movie because she just pulled it out and was just all over me on Instagram as far as naming the movie and pulling the quotes and everything. So congratulations, Cameron, you got it. And I can only hope to do better this coming week.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
That was good though. It was fun. The nice thing about someone winning is then I don't have to worry about what pictures I put up. Then I can just put whatever. Oh, this is a fun picture.
That's really funny. Well, we have this. So we have this back channel, right? We're all on Slack, and I thought it was really amusing when at the first picture you posted.
Right.
Stephen pipes in with, "Oh, Bridesmaids. That's a great pick, Andy."
Oh,
man.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry. Hey, you win some, you lose some.
Yeah, but you know what? It's fun movie, and it was okay.
I want to tell you the truth. I have not seen that one.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I've seen Sharknado, but I've never seen Bridesmaids.
Oh, well, you owe it to yourself to correct that wrong.
I know, I do.
Since you've already watched Sharknado.
Do you know what it was? It was that I got it on Netflix. It was in my house, but the movie cracked.
It told you needed, the
DVD
really?
was cracked, yeah. And I sent it back, but by then I was like, I've moved on.
That is the worst thing.
It's horrible.
That's why I haven't watched the rest of The Wire, because the second disc I got was broken, and I was just like, well, there goes that series.
Exactly. Oh, well.
So wrong.
All right. Well, I think we should talk trailers. You got to go first.
Okay. I went first. I picked this trailer because, it looks freaking crazy. It just looks like a wacky, I don't know what type of horror movie that, the trailer alone creeps me out. It is the way that they cut things in the trailer, cut from shot to shot, not like with a knife across an eyeball or anything, but the way that they cut in the editing room is very abrupt and jarring. The music and the sounds they use in the trailer, very just jarring and freaky. It everything about it is scary, and it really kind of took me by surprise when I watched it. The movie is called The Strange Color of Your Body's Tears. And
which is also scary.
Which, yeah, it's one of those titles. It's like, I don't even know what to make of that title. Like, how does that relate to anything in the movie? God only knows. But it's this kind of, I don't know, freaky looking movie that's from, wow, where is it from? I just lost my tab.
Italy.
I think it's French, actually.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh man.
And the it's.
I was going to say it's the Italians that kind of have the corner on weird.
Well, and that's the thing, is it looks like what people tell me Italian horror movies are like. And I'm not one who's ever really watched any of the Italian horror movies. It's actually from Belgium, I guess. Is that right? Oh no, it's going to be opening in Belgium. I'm trying to find it on the page here. It's I mean, the story is this is the synopsis on IMDb. Following the disappearance of his wife, a man finds himself on a dark and twisted trail of discovery through labyrinthine halls of his apartment building. Led on a wild goose chase by cryptic messages from his mysterious neighbors, he becomes entangled in a hellish nightmare as he unlocks their strange fantasies of sensuality and bloodshed. And it looks that way. Like, I don't know if the synopsis makes that much sense to me. It's like, okay, his wife disappears and then he ends up, his neighbor kind of brings him in for some S&M. There's lots of, shots of scary things happening, tearing down walls. I don't know what the story really is here, but I do find it really compelling in the most frightening of ways.
I totally agree. It's spooky. And are you right about the way the trailer is cut? I mean, this is see the trailer just for the art of the trailer. I mean, it's really quite beautiful. And they capture a lot of the horror right there. I mean, it's a great experience. Just watching that, it's whew.
Yeah, it is a creep fest.
And when does it hit U.S. shores?
It does not have a release date over here in the U.S. yet. It has. It looks like it's been playing in the festival circuit quite a bit. A lot of Fantastic Fest, some of the big festivals, a lot of horror festivals, and I don't know if it has an official release date yet. It's just still kind of in the festival circuit. But hopefully this fall, I'd like to think it would be a good October release.
Direct to digital, baby. I'm all about that now.
Yeah, it would work well for that as well.
Sure enough. Here's hoping. All right, so mine, I am to the point where if Benedict Cumberbatch is in it, I'm just going to go ahead and pick it. The first trailer came out for The Imitation Game, where our man Benny plays Alan Turing, English mathematician and logician, helping to crack the Enigma code during World War II. And when I showed you this, you said, and you reminded me that that you had read this a couple of years back when it was still on the blacklist, the script, and that you thought old Turing didn't come off as a very nice fellow.
Yeah, it's an interesting script. He is a very hard-to-like character, but it makes for an interesting character. And I'm curious to see how... this is what's great about, actually seeing a movie, not just reading the script, but seeing what an actor actually brings to the role. And does he find something in that character, especially somebody like Benedict Cumberbatch, who really has an amazing screen presence? What is he going to bring to that role that is going to, where he's going to find those elements of likability? Or just the complexity, and it kind of gives you this: do you like him? Do you hate him? Is he just too hard to crack, just like this code?
Yes, I think so too. I don't know. I feel like his presence is so interesting on stage, and that Alan Turing was such a fascinating historical figure. He died in 1954. He was young when he died. He was born in 1912. And I think that, to see what he is able to do with this extremely complex, convoluted person who was at odds with his place in history at the time, I think it's going to be an interesting thing to watch. and to see how they capture both his what he offered culturally and what he offers sort of scientifically, historically, and balance those two things in the film. I have not read the script, but I'm very much looking forward to seeing the movie.
Yeah, me too. Aside from how he comes across in the script, it is really an amazing story, and it's going to be interesting to see how they delve into that and just dig into this whole history of this code that he was working. So it kind of became his obsession.
Yeah, I think that, anyway, so yes, short answer, yes, it's going to be, I think it looks really interesting. It's worth checking out the trailer. Director Morton Tildum, who I can't think of anything off the top of my head. What do I know from him? I think they're all like Dutch films.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure what where he's from, but I haven't heard of any of the films that he's done.
I have not either. On the screenplay by Graham Moore, and who's done television. This is, I think, his first produced feature film, and so it comes out November 21st in the U.S.
Holiday time.
It's going to be my birthday week movie, one of them.
Very good, and it'll be something that'll be in the award circles, I'm sure.
Exactly. So,
cool.
Looking very good. Okay, where do we? I think it's time. We need to go tell some tall tales.
Hear, hear.
From the director of Time Bandit and Brazil, a new movie full of noise. Flying objects.
Trust me, madam. Your underwear is in good hands. I'm back!
Seafood.
Hello.
Is there a doctor in the fish?
Celebrities.
I'm Baron Munchausen. That sounds nasty. Is it contagious?
Compassion.
The Sultan is going to cut off my head. And?
Travel.
Now you come back here and expect me to follow you to the ends of the earth. Yes. All right.
Honor.
Have you any famous last words?
Not yet.
Not yet. Is that famous?
Gravity.
We've been dropped through the center of the world to come out on the other side.
Bull. He was full of it. The Adventures of Baron Munchausen. A true story. We've got the film to prove it.
All right, Andy.
All right.
Here we are. Week 3 of our Trilogy of the Imagination series, Terry Gilliam. The Adventures of Baron Munchausen, 1988. Directed by Terry Gilliam. Written by Charles McKeown and Terry Gilliam. And I don't know, there's other credits in here. But I think those are novel credits. Gottfried August Berger and Rudolf Erich Raspe.
Yeah, I think Rasp wrote the novel, and then Berger wrote a new version of it, translated into German. I don't know how they both got uncredited. I think it's more just Rasp's story, though. So yeah. Well,
this is the daringly semi-true adventures of Hieronymus Karl Friedrich Baron von Munchausen, and I think last week when we were talking about going into this week, both of us were nervous.
Yes, we both were a little hesitant.
We're coming off Time Bandits and Brazil, which we're building up. Obviously, Brazil, your very favorite film, performed quite well in our ranking. And here we go, wrapping up this series with what sound?
Well, wrapping up this part of the series.
Yes, wrapping up this part of the series.
I guess in the words of Baron Munchausen, not bad. I mean, I do like this movie. There's a lot of magic in this movie, and it is a very enjoyable film to watch. And to that point, I will say I watched it with my kids, and they have not shut it off since. It's been playing in a loop in my house since they watched it. So it clearly has found fans right here, which I think is fantastic because it's this beautiful, I mean, it's a luscious, just gorgeous, fantastical film that is, I mean, it has, like all of Terry Gilliam's films, it's got things that are a little more dangerous that kids aren't necessarily always in kids films. You don't see the figure of death, pulling souls out of people's mouths in many many Disney films. Not an image that you see, or even Venus rising out of the water. And but I kind of talked to them about it, and they, explained what death is, and death, he's not hurting them. It's just their time, and kind of talked to them about it. And they're totally fine, and they just sit there and they just absorb the magic of that film. And that's the thing about the film that I really do enjoy, is that it is just magic from beginning to end that I can't help but smile when I'm watching it. It really takes me in. But the story itself, the script, it's just not a perfect script, and it has its lumps and bumps, and it takes its time kind of getting going, and it kind of takes some turns in it that I don't necessarily, fall in line with. But on the whole, I get to the end of it and I go, you know what? I did enjoy that film. It's not, I wouldn't put it over Time Bandits or Brazil, but I certainly do enjoy it, and I think it's a fun film, and definitely one that is worth watching.
Okay. I think I'm with you. I'm sort of with you. I don't think I'm all that with you.
Yeah.
How was that? No, I really I tried really hard, and I haven't watched it with my kids. That has not happened yet, but it will.
You chose Transformers instead.
Well, our family movie night, I wanted to start with Time Bandits and then work our way through the series as well. But, it's summer and there's a lot of travel and camps and stuff. And our family movie nights have been totally torn asunder. So anyway, I have not watched this film with my kids. I'm anxious to do so. And that, I think, may change sort of the way I feel about the film. Yeah. I found it very difficult to engage, and part of it, I think, is because of the way I have been set up by Gilliam through Time Bandits in Brazil, particularly comparing it to Time Bandits, because it's really, I think, finds that same audience, right? Or targets the same audience. Mm-hmm. Which is this idea of just incredible adventure, almost serial adventure, as we talked about a couple of weeks ago. This idea that it's made up of a story made up of vignettes. Take us through these adventures, and Time Bandits was done so clean, so pristinely that your viewing experience is, you are like led through this wonderful, practically on a leash. You're led through this journey, through this world that I think is so magical by these fantastic characters. And the problem I run into with Munchausen starts in a long, drawn-out setup that does not clearly define for us which set of characters we're supposed to really be attached to. There is not enough. And that's not even. I don't even know if I'm framing that right. But we meet his posse in the broken down theater early on, and they're just actors, right? Mm-hmm. And
they're actors who look like his posse,
right? Actors who look like the posse. And then we meet them again in his stories, and they're the same. They're just younger, and then they it proceeds to sort of build the story. But I'm not sure after this first 20-minute prelude to the story, I'm not sure how to feel about these characters and their identity, and so they're not good or reliable narrators, I think, to each of these particular segments. They do some funny, goofy things, but otherwise it's not a very clean narrative. And I think that's the whole feeling I walk away from this movie. It's clumsy. It sort of staggers through the world of Munchausen without any clear milepost of how I should be feeling at the time. So by the end, I think the ultimate kind of climax of the film is a betrayal. It's a confusing, not even a betrayal, it's just a confusing misstep that I don't know what to believe. And in a film like this, targeting that sort of kids audience, I'm glad to hear. I'm actually relieved to hear that your kids love this movie. I think it bodes well for mine. But I certainly had a lot of trouble, letting myself let go because the script is such a mess.
Well, and I agree with you. I completely agree with you. The beginning really it's kind of confusing. I mean, I understand the setup and everything, but it's just like it takes a while getting going. Are we following Baron? Are we following Sally? It really does kind of become her story as she kind of, or we see the story through her eyes as we go along.
Right.
And then it's that bouncing back and forth from he's telling the story on the stage. We're watching the story as as it unfolds back, like we step into his story and we see the story unfolding. Then we're back on the stage, and then he has to go stop the Turk, and he goes to, or the Sultan, and he goes to stop the Sultan, and he goes off on this adventure, and at the end he stops the Sultan and the Turks, and but then he's killed, and then it's revealed, oh, hey, it was all still part of the story, and he's still just telling his tale. But lo and behold, by telling the tale, all of a sudden the Turks are gone. And
everybody knows, ain't nobody's business but the Turks.
That's right. Istanbul was Constantinople. Oh.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's good.
You were saying.
Always bring in that reference when you can. You don't get to bring it in often enough.
Right?
That's true. But it doesn't. It clearly doesn't make sense. I mean, there's no logic to why any of that happens. Like, I don't understand. Like, I get to the end and I'm like, okay, so I guess he saves the day through storytelling. And through the magic of storytelling, he, the Sultan disappears and all the Turks, because they were in the story, and he uses the story, but I don't know. It's that logic in this world that's not really there. I think what I did find myself drawn to this time was just the stories. I love the character. I love the journeys that he goes on, particularly Vulcan. When he falls into the center of the earth, Baron and Troop fall into the center of the earth. I think that is probably my favorite sequence in the entire film. And I think it's all driven by Oliver Reed, who I don't think I've ever seen in such an enjoyable light. I have so much fun watching that sequence. But when you look at it in sequence by sequence, you can find yourself enjoying it. But you're right. When you look at it in this whole package of what is really going on here, it's kind of just nonsensical. And maybe that was the intention, but I think you're right. That's part of the problem of the script that I find when ever since I first watched it, and still find. It just doesn't. I just don't get the logic there, and I get to the end, and I'm like, okay, well, I guess that is clever, but I don't know if it really works for me.
And here's why that's such a weird misstep. That Terry Gilliam has done such a great job over his career in building a world that does not cause me to question it. Right? Mm-hmm. That there are some very strange things that happen in Time Bandits and Brazil, and my expectation is I'm going to be enough in the world where I'm not going to ask. But because the script is so weird, even when you get to the littlest bits of odd in the film that otherwise would be written off as a bit of Gilliam wit, visual wit maybe, For example, when he goes to Vulcan and they're very small when they fall into the pit,
Right.
and the giants are so much larger over them, and he says giants are big and strong, and then he reaches in and picks up Munchausen, and he is the same height, right? He's actually taller,
Right.
but he's of scale, and they share this moment of that's weird,
Right.
and so do I. I'm not able to let that go, right? I'm thinking, why did that happen? That doesn't fit the physics of the world that he's set up for us. Like, there's no reason for that to have happened the way it did. And I get this feeling that Gilliam's intention with the film, and I obviously I can't confirm this, but that his intention with the film is, we're going to tell this story that is going to somehow cement Munchausen's stories, his fabrications, in a cinematic reality, right? We're going to make these. We're going to make him a more sort of rational character. We're going to say we're going to give him more weight and gravitas by trying to convince the world that there was some truth to what he did, and it'll be done through magic, and it'll end in truth. And I instead just found myself asking the whole time, how the hell do you want me to get lost in this film? And it was made in a very confusing time. This is another highly controversial, maybe not as highly controversial as Brazil, but it was a controversial movie-making experience. And, probably coming right on the heels of Brazil didn't make it any easier. But, I'm sure we'll talk about that, in a bit. But this whole idea that another movie made in a series of, or a setting of political complexity, did that have an impact on the film itself?
Right. And it could have, but my hunch is that the film would have ended up this way regardless, because the script didn't change that much. It was sized down. I mean, there were big sequences cut out, like the moon sequence was much larger with, several thousand people, as they say, it went from 2,000 to 2 on the moon.
Yeah.
And some of the effect sequences were kind of shortened or thinned out and stuff, but I don't think there was any drastic changes to the overall structure of the story. So my sense is that, there may have been some things like that moment where they land in the giants, and that could have been something where, when they got to set and things got changed, then that was just their way of getting around it. I mean, that could have been, I don't know. For me, I always look at that as just one of those funny moments, because I don't know. I guess for me, it's like, this is a story about a guy who always says he's telling the truth, but is clearly always lying, right? And he has these fantastical stories that are all just, oversized and crazy. But when we get to the end of the film and we go, oh, okay, so basically everything that we've seen in the film is him telling another story. It's all just, his fiction. And so I don't know, maybe that makes it easier for me to buy into that stuff. And, honestly, that little moment where he and Vulcan look at each other, I laugh at that moment, because it's just such a strange little moment. And maybe it's just because I found it easier to kind of get into the world and acknowledge the problems. I was just like, okay, that's one of those clever little moments that the filmmaker used to kind of get past the blue screen giant shooting that they just had to do for the moon characters.
Yeah, right. Okay. I mean, I can buy it, but like I said, that normally would be a sequence that I would love to let go and just laugh at. But because everything else is weird, and I can't remember. Is that sequence before or after? I think that's immediately after the moon.
Right. They fall off the moon and crash into the into the volcano.
The entire moon sequence I find painful, like physically painful to watch. It is ridiculous.
That's the hardest sequence for me to get through now as well. And even actually thinking about it, even when I was younger, that was always the sequence that bothered me then. There's something about it that just I don't know. It never felt like it worked right, and maybe that's because that is a sequence that had to change drastically because of the production problems that the film was going through. I don't know, but it just has never really worked for me. And Sean Connery was originally going to play the King in the Moon, and Robin Williams ended up stepping in and uncredited. And something about Robin Williams, that manic Robin Williams-ness.
Yes.
I like when he finally gets his head back on his body and he's like, "I'm back." I'm just like, oh, that's
doesn't
the Robin
fit.
Williams that bugs me.
Yes, that's the one. That is the one.
Yeah.
I have a really difficult time watching it, but even his wife, played by, oh please, now I've lost it. What's her name? The Queen of the Moon.
It's Valentina Cortez.
Yes. So it is. I find it, the whole conceit of removing their heads so their bodies can go be carnal and weird, so their heads float around. I find just these people, Robin Williams and Cortez, didn't pull it off for me. Like Williams, as you say, was obnoxious, and at the end when her head comes to rescue and unlock the cage to rescue the three of them, she keeps what we find out that her feet are being tickled and her body is separate and her feet are being tickled, but she is making such exuberant sounds, such over the top sounds that totally get in the way of the dialogue that we're trying to hear from these other characters. I just can't watch it. I just can't watch it. And it's one of those things that really takes me so far out of the film that it's kind of hard to get back into it.
Yeah.
So I'm glad we agree on that.
Yeah, and I like her as an actress. She's also in the play. She these characters all kind of pop up in the play as well. Like she's a Violet in the play, and I like her better there. So I think it's just the way that they're written on the Moon. Yeah, and it's just there's something just off about that. And then it's got I don't know. I guess I kind of like the world that is created on the Moon. Maybe it's just the characters that drive me nuts.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah,
I think that's fair. Now, I think we both agree that the right ordinary Horatio Jackson, played by Jonathan Pryce, is amusing.
He is, and Terry Gilliam says that Jonathan Pryce was channeling Tom Stoppard, who co-wrote Brazil. Which I think is kind of funny as far as his accent goes. It's a very funny accent, and I don't know. He cracks me up. I really enjoy him in the role. He plays that representative of reason and order very well, and I find that so interesting coming off of Brazil.
Yeah, exactly, and not just reason and order, but betrayal too, right? Am I understanding that sequence? I mean, he was negotiating with the Sultan, in their kind of ongoing battle about who's going to withdraw first, who's going to lose.
Yeah, who's gonna have to surrender this time?
Yeah, surrender.
Well, it's interesting because I think that Gilliam and McEwan have both said that they put a lot of kind of modern politics and stuff into this film, like Thatcher's England, and just the way that politicians played these political games at the expense of their people. Which I think is interesting. I don't know if this film is one that needed that sort of stuff put into it, but I do find that interesting with him and how it is interesting when you see that scene and you realize that he and the Sultan are kind of negotiating all of this. It's an interesting little bit. I don't know how much it really helps the story when the whole thing, because really it's all about I don't know. In a way, it's kind of a betrayal to the story of why the Sultan is attacking in the first place, right?
Yeah, yes.
Which
they had already set up.
Right. The Sultan is attacking because he had because this wager that and this is the funniest part about watching this with my kids, is because my daughter is obsessed with this fact that the Sultan said, but he said this, whatever your strongest man can carry.
Right.
I'm like, I know, but he didn't think that that Baron really had the strongest man. who could actually carry all that treasure. And she's like, but he said he didn't lie. And so she was very obsessed and upset at the Sultan about that, which I can agree. It's the
Yes.
Sultan is just a greedy little bastard, and it's really his fault. But then you go and you see this thing where he is wheeling and dealing with Jonathan Pryce, and all of a sudden it's like, well, okay, wait a minute. I thought this whole thing was because he was upset that Munchausen took his treasure. So
Well, yeah, but that was in the story.
it was in the story.
I mean, are we
but
to believe that? And they were set up to believe sort of that, yes, it is. But what I like what I do like about that sequence is that, in the story, in Munchausen's story, he was wheeling and dealing over this bottle of sherry or wine, right?
Right.
And so we've already established a precedent that this guy is not to be trusted. He's willing to double cross, right?
Right.
And then the next time we meet him outside of the story, he's doing the same thing, this time over the battle itself.
Right. Yeah.
All right.
Just a bum.
He's just a bum. Eric Idle said, up until Munchausen, I'd always been very smart about Terry Gilliam films. You don't ever be in them. Go and see them by all means, but to be in them, effing madness.
Yep. Yeah, he said he's got two rules: never be in a Kubrick film and never be in a Gilliam film, which I think is hilarious.
I think it is hilarious, and I like his face. I like watching him just interact with the world around him, and yet I still find the character tough to stomach in this film.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I do. Every time he just has to hop up and down to get his legs kick-started. I'm like, oh, brother.
See, I like all that stuff. I find myself really enjoying the characters in the film more than the film itself. I like the way that he has to run and just the silliness of all these different things. How he trips on the rock and he has to chase down the bullet,
falls asleep under the apple tree.
Right.
And I should say I like Charles McEwen as Adolphus and Winston Dennis as Albrecht and Jack Purvis in particular as Gustavus. I think he's very funny. And I do like all of them when they meet on the ship of death, playing cards.
Ooh, yeah.
I think that's and you would think I would like this movie more, just kind of stepping back a bit because of my fascination with movies about these kind of masculine characters taking back their power. And here is a whole movie about a team of these men through age who are finding a way to take back power. Right.
Yeah. Right.
And so I guess maybe that's why I'm doubly disappointed in the film that I don't like it as much, because I feel like it's a theme that I'm already sort of conditioned to like right now at this point in my life, and so I was disappointed that it didn't quite live up to that standard for me.
Well, I can totally agree. I mean, it is a tricky film because it is such a messy one. And I definitely think that it's one that people could have some troubles with because of that. But like I said, my kids have really latched onto it, and I wasn't quite expecting that. But it makes me happy because it is kind of this magical fantasy film, and I don't think that they care so much that the story doesn't make sense.
Well, that's abundantly clear.
Right.
And of course, Uma.
Uma.
Ooh, Uma.
17 years old when she made this.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't catch that. 17 years old as Venus.
Yep. Making out with John Neville.
Right? Oh, Uma.
Yeah, I think this was not her first film, but definitely one of her first films. And I guess that her mother was calling her when she was on set and trying to get her to come back so that she could graduate and go, get her diploma and stuff. But
oh, that's too funny.
The show must go on.
That is really funny.
Yeah. But I think she works very well as Venus in the film. I mean, it's not a big role. It's not a a big performance, but I think that she does what she needs to do as Venus, which is just, make everybody fall in love with her.
Yeah, no, she does. She's delightful. She's lovely, and she plays a great foil to, as you say, to Vulcan, and it's believable that he is wildly jealous.
And going back to him,
makes it very funny.
Oh yeah, and I just have to the moment when when she has to calm him down because he's so angry and he's just thrown them all back into the whirlpool. And she calms him down, and he looks at her, and then he does that little twinkle of his eyes, his little the little blinky blink. That just makes me lose it. I Oliver Reed, it's like a comic genius in this film, and there's every bit of him as Vulcan. I couldn't stop laughing. So that was for me the biggest exciting thing about rediscovering this film is how funny Oliver Reed is in it.
Yes. Yeah, and easily the best sequence in the film.
And he plays so well opposite Uma because she is so gorgeous, and he is just this hunched over, shrunken, dirty, hairy man, just nothing appealing about him. And that's just something that I think Gilliam played really well, is kind of that story of Venus and Vulcan.
Yeah, I totally agree. And most of the film, I find these sequences and shots are just too long. I think most of the sequences, I think it just could be tightened up. The reveal of the clamshell opening up is painfully long, and it's perfect. It is perfect. It's just, you see the ribbon, and you're like, that thing's gonna fall. And it just does a great job of building anticipation, especially for her little nymphs to fly down from the rafters and wrap her up,
right,
in that dress. It's really funny.
It is. It really is. So
that works well for me too.
Yeah.
Who else do you want to talk about?
Well, you mentioned Winston Dennis already as one of his men, but I just wanted to point out that Winston Dennis has been in every film we've talked about so far that Terry Gilliam's done. He has always been hidden, though. In Brazil, he was the samurai.
Yes,
and in Time Bandits, he was the Minotaur.
That's really funny.
So it's great to actually see him beyond all of those roles, doing something a little different, and it's fun to see him playing this giant, burly character who really has finally found himself and just wants to be do dainty things.
Wears his irregular clothes with the little dainty hat.
Right.
That's really funny that he was the Minotaur.
Yeah.
I didn't make that connection at all.
No, I didn't either. I had to look it up.
Wow.
So that's Winston Dennis. And then I think almost last, but Sarah Polley, I think
we
definitely need to talk about, because I think she's great in this. She was 8 years old when they made this film, and I think she plays this role so well, and she carries the film as much as she needs to, especially as a child actress. And I think what's important to know is, when you watch the film, she never looks not in the film, but when you hear the stories of her kind of talking about her experience on the film, and she talks about how it was truly a horrible experience for her, and she was traumatized. She always felt scared when she was on set, and this was what I was alluding to back when you're talking about Michael Bay. There were explosions going off near her that she was afraid were going to hurt her. They were putting her in giant tanks of cold water, and that she had to stay in for hours. She was working longer than she should have been allowed to, and tired very frequently. It was a brutal shoot for a young 8-year-old kid, and she really, really hated it. And she enjoyed the people, and she enjoyed that they were trying to make things happy for her and everything, but she had a miserable time. And I don't think she's ever really said anything about about having had a good time, or it was a learning experience or anything. She just talks about it was a rough time. But I think that's really interesting, and it shows her acting skills, that you never see that. She never comes across in any way other than what she needs to be for the scene she's playing.
Yeah, totally agree. And I was thinking about that particularly, again, in relation to Time Bandits, when you look at the strength of Gilliam and his casting folks to be able to come up with two such strong kids. Because these kids are the custodians of the story, right? As you say, even in all the confusion of Munchausen, really it becomes Sarah's story to get back and save the city, and she's the one who keeps reminding him to keep moving forward and to come home, and she is ultimately the savior, on the boat. To wakes everybody up from their, falling into their pattern of just playing cards. And so it's really her story. And she is a fantastic child caretaker of it. Ultimately she is really fun to watch.
Yeah. She really
totally
is.
Agree with that.
Yeah, and Gilliam said one of the reasons that he cast her is because she had such great teeth. She had that 8-year-old mouth. Like half of her teeth were missing, half of them were still growing.
That's true.
Yeah, she really does. Just she's got this cute little face that when she opens her mouth, it's just like just this mound of these teeth that are all kind of all over the place,
gaping holes.
Yep. So
that's really funny.
Great.
That's great.
And then last but not least, I think we absolutely should talk about John Neville, who I think is, the film has its problems, but I tell you, if there is a person who could have captured Baron von Munchausen and played him any better and carried the look so well, I think John Neville just nails it.
Yeah, I think you're right. And so much of the weirdness, he is kind of a victim of. I still can't wrap my head around why they age the way they do thematically. Like why it seems like if it's just that, oh my gosh, when they go on adventures they get younger, then that's not enough.
Well, and I think that is it, unfortunately, and I don't think it's ever going to make much more sense than that. I think it's the thing, it's all about how. I think it's really his external age is kind of like showing his his internal mindset, maybe, mm-hmm. where he's feeling older or he's feeling younger, and it really just kind of plays that way, which I think is an interesting conceit. I kind of agree with you. I don't know if it ever completely works for me, but I like the idea of it.
It's one of those things that totally works in the script.
Right.
Yeah. But you're right. And so I, when I watch that, I see that I'm like, oh goodness, there he is getting young again. But from the moment he steps, he steps on stage in the beginning, I mean, you just sort of can't help but get wrapped up in his delivery of Hieronymus Munchausen.
Yeah,
he's terrific, and to go back to the trilogy of the imagination kind of lineage, he is the custodian of this old man's adventure in imagination. And that's kind of a significant role, both culturally. Because you want him to come off as, fantastical but not daft.
Right.
Right? He needs to not be senile or, coming down with sort of Alzheimer's. He needs to be able to be taken seriously. And I think that's a delicate line to walk, and I think he ends up doing it very, very well.
Oh, absolutely. I think he plays opposite the insanity so well that you not just insanity but impossibility and everything that's going on in this world, and he plays it so well, like you believe that this is a guy who's experienced these things all his life, and it's all just kind of that's how things are now.
Yeah, I think so. He's definitely worth catching.
He's great, and he had taken a hiatus from film. He hadn't been in films in quite a while. I think it was, he'd been in some TV series in the early 80s. And then I think he had gotten back on stage and was doing stage. And I think at the time he was running a theater company in Canada when Gilliam or one of his associates ended up kind of coming to, hey, what about John Neville? And he ended up being perfect for the film. And I'm thrilled that he was cast. And and then sadly, he passed away just a few years ago in 2011 from Alzheimer's disease.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry I said that.
It's rough. It's a hard disease.
Yeah. Goodness. Hey, he was in a lot.
Yeah.
After this film, I mean, he's been in like 100 things. Like he's got a long resume, but a lot of television, lot of television, and just a wonderful sort of character player.
I don't think we even brought him up that he was in The Fifth Element. In fact, I don't even remember him being in The Fifth Element.
Yeah, we didn't talk about him. General Stidert.
Yeah. Interesting.
We did not talk about him in that film.
Huh.
He was always on the bridge. He's once you see him there, once you kind of picture him there, he's absolutely there. He's always standing right next to the president.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Anyhow. Good. So you want to talk a little bit about the controversy? I think it's a short one.
We could talk about it at great length. If you really are interested in learning about the controversy, I mean, there's a fantastic documentary that's a little over an hour, I think, on the DVD and the Blu-ray that really goes into a lot of depth as to what happened. But really, this is just one of those things where things weren't gelling. I mean, they had a producer on board who I think promised more than he could deliver. What was his name? Thomas Schuley, I believe. Mm-hmm. And he got Terry excited about filming in Rome at Cinecittà Studios. That ended up being kind of a big mistake that cost a lot of money. And a lot. I mean, I think it cost. As everybody seemed to say, they found ways to the people in the Italian system kept finding ways to charge more and more money for things, and there was no savings at all by shooting there. So that by the time they got started into production, I mean, I can't remember. I don't think I have the numbers written down, but somebody said, by the time they were making the film, they were already what was it? I don't remember how many millions of dollars over budget. By the time they were here it is, $8 million over budget before 1 month before they started shooting. So it was a film that it just kind of, the production itself got kind of out of control, and it was the biggest production at the time that Terry Gilliam had worked on. And so he would ask the producer, well, what are all these people doing? And he'd say, well, they're all working in their individual departments. If you want to know, I don't know, but you'd have to talk to the department heads to really figure it out. And it's just one of these things that kind of snowballed and kind of grew much larger than it should have. Unfortunately, at the same time, Columbia Pictures, that was paying for the film, underwent a changing of the guard, kind of like what happened in our last story we told. Mm-hmm. And the new guard had to basically kind of didn't want to handle what the old guard was doing. When Dawn Steele came in as the head of production, she didn't kind of get behind the project. And they managed to wade through. They found the right people to make things happen. It sounds like from the numbers that people say, it ended up costing about twice what the original budget was. It went from like $23 million up to $46 million and change. And there's disagreements about that, but that's kind of what the general consensus is. And then Columbia, because they were, again, this whole changing the guard thing, they didn't really get behind it. And when they did a release for it, it was a very, very small release. I think initially it was 47 screens in opening weekend, and they ended up expanding it to about 100 screens. But they, as Terry Gilliam says, an art house film gets 400 screens, and they only had 100 and some for this. It just was not something they got behind, and it kind of fizzled and died at the box office. And that's really the kind of the long and the short of the story. It's definitely more of the short. I mean, it's a really interesting story, and I definitely recommend anyone who really wants to get into the meat of it to check out the documentary on the disc.
It is really fascinating. I mean, you bring up just the shakeup when because all of this happened right around Columbia getting sold to Sony.
Right.
And just that in itself, and how the politics led to an overt advocacy against everything Terry Gilliam stood for in the theater, and the fact that all of the agreements between Thomas Schuele and David Putnam were all around a budget right in the $35 million from the beginning, when Don Steele came in and said, no, it's 25 and we're not budging. After the movie was being made. I mean, it's a fascinating tale of politics getting in the way, and it would just happen to happen to a guy like Terry Gilliam, who ends up, who is a strong advocate for his own work. So.
Well, and what's sad is you hear Terry Gilliam talk about the problems that happened on this shoot. I mean, there were things that happened completely unrelated to production. The horses. There was this outbreak of some weird horse disease in Spain where their horses were all being trained, and they couldn't ship their horses to the set. They wouldn't allow them to travel the horses, so they had to use totally different horses that had not been trained. They had a costume issue where the costumes got locked up in this customs strike, and the customs wouldn't release any of the luggage, and so they didn't have any of the costumes they needed. I mean, Terry Gilliam, it's one of those guys. He's kind of become one of those guys who's, it's this Orson Wellesian ability to draw bad luck to him. It's like you watch the movie about him trying to make The Man Who Killed Don Quixote, which is a fascinating documentary about a film that was half made and then got shut down and never finished. This film came so close to that. It came close to being another one of those films that just never would have gotten off the ground. But somehow the right people ended up jumping onto this production and kind of making it work.
And that's why I want to go back to my comment earlier, right? It's this idea of a film being made under duress, right? Even if the script doesn't get changed as a result of all these budget conversations, there is no way that his magnetism for crisis doesn't seep into other elements of the shoot, right? There's no way that doesn't go to helping to define Sarah Polley feeling scared on set, or Eric Idle saying, never be in a Terry Gilliam film, or there's no way people don't sense that this thing is sort of a ship of doom. Yeah. Even if it's intangible. This was a film that was made in crisis. And my assertion is that comes through in the way the script was executed to screen. And so many of the problems that I have with it are a result of, at least in some part, a result of that.
And I wholeheartedly agree. But I would also, as a kind of a caveat to that. I don't know if it's a caveat, but another thing to go along with that. I would say that Terry Gilliam brings an amazing ambition to his projects when he's doing them, and he's always trying new things, and he's pushing people to do things that are out of the ordinary and maybe not what they expect, and they're probably like, I don't think this is going to make any sense, but at least he's trying things and doing things that shakes things up a little bit. And one of the other people in the documentary, I can't remember who it was, but one of them said, this is a guy who doesn't get to make as many movies as I want to see him make. I want to see more Terry Gilliam movies, and despite everything that went wrong with this film, I would much rather see something like this that actually is by a filmmaker who has ambition, who's trying to do something, than just give more money to the next Joe Blow who is just going to do what the executives tell him and crank out another piece of Hollywood garbage that just is instantly forgettable. And I completely agree with that, because while this film has problems, I find it so much more interesting than a lot of the schlock that gets cranked out of the system.
Well, and ultimately I agree. And I would say, caveat or not, I do not contend that I would never say anything about Terry Gilliam not having ambition to make the film. This is a sadness of execution, not ambition. Yeah. Clearly, the guy has a vision, an incredible eye, and I can't wait, frankly, after this experience, talking about these three films, I can't wait to do this again, because films that I like even more are in the category outside of these first three Gilliam films. I'm very excited to revisit some of those. With
Oh
you.
yeah,
So,
yeah, I absolutely am.
so you've already touched on the budget a little bit. Do you want to wrap up that part?
Yeah, like I said, it did not do well. Although oddly, Columbia Pictures, it's one of those films that it got critical praise. A lot of the critics fell in love with this world that he created, even if they did acknowledge any story problems. And Columbia clearly knew that it had done well in parts of the world, and even in the U.S., it had its fans. And this was actually the first DVD that Columbia issued.
Really?
When they first made the transition, yeah.
I had no idea.
So there you go. Yeah, it's one of those weirdnesses. Like somehow they have latched onto it, and it's like they know that there's something there, and they're going to keep kind of pushing it out there. I mean, they lost a lot of money on this. I find it hard to believe that they will actually make their money back on it. I mean, like I said, the film was supposed to cost $23 million. It ended up costing about $46.6 million. Adjusted for today's dollars, that's about almost an $88 million film. So that's a pretty reasonable budget. I mean, it's big.
Yeah,
I think I actually heard. I haven't researched this, but I heard that this was at the time the biggest budget of a film that had been released. I don't know if that's true or not, but certainly people spend more money on movies these days. And then, like I said, it got a very, very modest release from Columbia. It only ended up making domestically $8 million, which is adjusted about $15 million. I couldn't find anything internationally on this, but using those figures that we have, this is the biggest loser that we actually have on our list of adjusted profit per finished minute. It lost about $580,000 per finished minute when it comes down to it.
Wow.
Yeah, and like I said, that doesn't include international, so maybe that would help it bump it up a little bit, but even still,
I'm telling you, that figure makes me deeply sad for this film.
Yeah.
That's too much.
It's
too much.
Yeah. So that is that. But, like I said, it was critically praised. I mean, it got 4 Oscar nominations for best, and we didn't mention these people, but we certainly should. The art direction by Dante Ferretti, it was just stunning. They lost the art direction Oscar to Batman,
which is chronic.
Yeah. Best costume design, which, gorgeous costumes all through the film by, what was her name? I lost it here. Costumes by
that's
I can't remember.
That is the thing. I mean, we talk about sort of the visual world, and this, this film I think really represents a continued maturing of bringing vision to screen, right? In terms of art direction, set direction, costume design. I think it is. You can see the maturity coming from Time Bandits through Brazil to this.
Yeah, absolutely. It's Gabriella Pescucci did the costume design. And this is something that, like you just said, Gilliam really knows how to create these worlds, and he latched onto brilliant people in Italy to kind of bring this stuff to life. And I mean, it really shows. Costume design, though, lost to Henry V. Best visual effects, they had great visual effects in this, especially for the time, and the physical effects that he used, even when it's blue screen, it all just, everything looks so great. And, of course, it lost to The Abyss, and I got to say, water tentacle.
Yeah.
And then best makeup, it actually lost to Driving Miss Daisy, which, there's an age makeup, thing in Driving Miss Daisy, but there's a lot of age makeup here, and I don't know. This is one I could see them giving to this, but Terry Gilliam's wife, Maggie Weston, who we also haven't talked about, she did the hair design and makeup design on the film, and she did a great job in this one. I really do enjoy the looks that everyone has.
I agree. I do agree.
Yeah, but it didn't help it at the box office.
No, that's a bummer.
Yeah.
Well. I think we should probably flick chart it.
Yeah, let's do it.
Head over to flickchart.com/thenextreel, and you'll be able to see our stack rankings of our favorite movies, and we'll just see, will the good Baron crack the top 100?
All right, here we go. So, The Adventures of Baron Munchausen or The Bourne Supremacy?
Bourne Supremacy.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with you there. Munchausen or The Sandlot?
The Sandlot.
Yeah. That's, I would, gosh, that's a hard one. I probably would go Sandlot, but I feel a little guilty about that one.
Well, and I should say, I feel like I should be on the fence about that one a little bit, just because I haven't watched it with my kids. Like, Sandlot is not a film that I'm generally going to put on all that often, yet with, my kids like it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, so once they see Munchausen, maybe they'll be like you and like your kids. Like, we'll end up watching it more.
Yeah, I mean, I'm at a point where I'm just like, God, maybe I should get this thing if my kids are going to watch it this much. Because, I mean, I like that they enjoy watching these fantastical stories. So, but anyway, we already picked Sandlot.
All right.
So, Munchausen or Escape from New York?
Munchausen. Wow. Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. Munchausen or The Parallax View?
Probably The Parallax View.
I think I would do Munchausen on this one. And again, it's the thrill of the fantasy in it, even with the story problems. I really just enjoy the stuff going on in this, and it is one that I can watch with the kiddies.
All right, I don't have much skin in this one.
Okay, Munchausen or Bullet? I would do Munchausen.
Yeah,
on this
probably
one.
Munchausen again. You actually convinced me of that months ago.
I feel guilty now.
Yeah.
I feel like I need to go watch Bullet again just so I can find something else to appreciate in it.
Because this is on you. This is very much on you.
Munchausen or Christmas in July?
Munchausen.
Yeah, I think I would agree there. Munchausen or Atlantic City?
I'd say Atlantic City.
Interesting. I would say Munchausen. I'm surprised you say Atlantic City.
I know, me too. I say Munchausen. I take it back.
Okay. All right. There we
it's
go.
like I'd forgotten what I felt about Atlantic City. I just answered so quickly.
Well, there you go. It didn't crack the top 100, but it's close-ish. It's 108 out of 142 movies.
108.
Mm-hmm.
Not bad.
Not too bad. Not too bad.
It's not. It's not great. Let's be. It's a bottom third. All right. But where do we go from here? That's the most important question.
Yeah, well, we're going to be continuing our Terry Gilliam series. We're done with his trilogy of the imagination, as he calls it, with these three films. But, these next two, like you said, pretty exciting stuff. So we're going to be jumping into The Fisher King next.
I'm really excited about this film.
Me too.
Yeah.
I love it, and I can't wait to see it again. I haven't seen it in quite a while, so I am definitely looking forward to it.
Yeah, I haven't seen it in a long, long time, but boy, my memory of it is so good and so clear, just really clear between Mercedes Rule and Amanda Plummer and just Jeff Bridges, obviously. That's just wonderful. This is the Terry Gilliam film that Robin Williams was meant to be in.
Yes, because he's not being the manic, crazy Robin Williams that annoys me.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. Right. And interesting tidbit, if somebody wants to go back and listen to all of our episodes, but there was an in-joke from this movie that I did throw into an episode long ago that I don't think anybody ever, at least if they got it, they never told me they got it.
Did I get it?
I don't know if you did or not.
I don't know.
Maybe I'll bring it up next week
and just see if I get it. I don't
right.
even remember. I don't remember it, and I know this movie pretty well. Don't do it now, because I'll feel like
I won't. I'll wait.
Doofus.
I'll just throw it in there.
Oh man, now it's like a test.
I know, it'll make it exciting.
All right, hey, good talk, man. I'm glad we did this this trilogy, and I certainly enjoyed talking about them with you. I'm very much looking forward to next week.
Absolutely.
And between now and then, I'm going to go to bed.
I've got a date with Venus, so...
Okay, I'm going to go first because I love it. It's like a warning. And maybe I only find it amusing because I've seen the movie. This is called Baron Munchausen Review by Steve. A fun movie, but you must be willing to suspend your disbelief. Watch it with an open mind and don't get hung up on special effects, which very well might have been ahead of their time. 4 stars.
Wow.
That's it. Why is that funny to me? I really, I read that and I laughed out loud. Who is going to watch this movie and not suspend their disbelief?
Right.
Who is going to watch this and not have it, maybe you could use this review as an example of me not having an open mind because I had so many problems with the script. But really, the guy walking around with the ankle weights or the carrying all the money to spend the disbelief.
Throwing ships around,
Right,
falling off the moon.
Around, exactly. Using the rope of the Queen of the Moon's hair.
I could have sworn this was a documentary about the real Baron Munchausen.
It's a documentary. All right.
Well, mine
What's
is
yours?
a 2-star review by Headbanger Duh, who said, "Okay, I think I missed something." And this is going to tell you a lot about Headbanger Duh. This was written in 2005, but just you'll hear it. What kind of movie is this? I put the VHS into my machine, expecting a swashbuckling adventure, and I get this. Instead of a swashbuckling action, I get some 5-year-old fantasy about some wacko and his silly sidekicks. And worst of all, one of the leading characters is a little girl, not a day older than 8, and her reaction when the Baron wants to quit is so stereotypical and contrived. You can't quit. I don't like you anymore. How Disney-ish. Instead of a dashing hero sword fighting with 20 bad guys, I got a weirdo who runs 150 miles an hour. Instead of thrills, excitement, and humor, I got an old man traveling to the moon in a hot air balloon. Come on. And meeting people with detachable heads and some white-faced dude screaming, "I am your elephant of joy!" Oh, for Pete's sakes. There are some okay scenes near the end, but it's not worth your time or money, and you should just go rent Mask of Zorro again instead.
Oh, man.
Yes.
I knew I'd reviewed something on Amazon.
Headbanger Duh has been unveiled.
My hacker alias. Headbanger Duh. Oh, Amazon. Andy, it is hard to believe that we have been having in-depth weekly conversations about movies since 2011.
You are telling me. Producing this show week after week requires a ton of work behind the scenes. If you'd like to help support our efforts, one easy way is by using our Originals page when shopping for books and movies that we've covered.
Just visit thenextreel.com/originals. Your purchases made through our links give us a small commission at no extra cost to you and allow us to keep having these great discussions.
I love The Next Reel Season 4. Do you know why?
I don't. Why?
Because we got to talk about my favorite movie, Terry Gilliam's Brazil.
That's not even an adaptation.
No, but it was such a great part of our great Terry Gilliam series, and a few others in that series were adaptations, like The Adventures of Baron Munchausen, adapted from Raspi's stories, and La Jetée, which inspired 12 Monkeys.
Oh, right. And for our Man with No Name trilogy, we saw how Sergio Leone's A Fistful of Dollars was basically stolen from Kurosawa's Yojimbo.
We added Labor Day to our Jason Reitman series, adapted from Joyce Maynard's novel.
Oof, there's one we'll always regret.
Our big Stephen King series covered adaptations like The Shining, Cujo, Christine, and Stand By Me, great horror and coming-of-age tales.
Another Coen Brothers adaptation, too. We got to talk about how they turned Homer's The Odyssey into Oh, Brother, Where Art Thou?
For our holiday series, we did The Bishop's Wife and The Poseidon Adventure.
And who could forget seeing Alec Guinness in the adaptation of Kind Hearts and Coronets during our series dedicated to him.
We really need to do more of his films.
Truly.
We had our first film noir series with classics like Double Indemnity, Detour, and Out of the Past.
And our black and white cinematography of James Wong Howe series with The Thin Man, Sweet Smell of Success, Seconds, and King's Row. So many adaptations.
Oh, you're not kidding. Dive deeper into these originals and more at thenextreel.com/originals. Every book you buy helps support our show.
Get the full list at thenextreel.com/originals and start reading today.